What is happening, Ninten-nerds? Ninten-dad here with some more Nintendo goodness. For the first time ever, I got to interview a voice actor, Joe Hernandez. Now, you may
Nice!
know him for his role as Yunobo in Daruk in Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and the Hyrule Warriors games. Joe Hernandez gave me a few minutes of his time for an online interview. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, I have the rare privilege of having the voice actor of Daruk, Yunobo, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, Agreston. Uh,
Agriston, yeah.
Agreston, thank you so much. Very talented voice actor. I know you guys have heard of him before. You've heard his voice. You know the voice. But Joe Hernandez here. Joe, thank you so much. Welcome.
Happy
Welcome.
to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you the questions, if that's okay, unless there was anything you wanted to say before we jump into it.
No, let's go for it. Let's go right for
Awesome.
it.
So my first question for you is, what made you decide to get into voice acting?
I, well, I mean, if you really, really, really want to back it up, it was because of a girl. It was because of a girl. Yeah, that is my origin story. So I remember going, high school theater, and I had had an interest in performing a little bit here or there, but I remember seeing a play, and there was a girl. I think this might have been my freshman year, but she was up on stage, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like I thought she was the bee's knees. And so, based off of that, I ended up joining our theater program and did a bunch of plays, and that's kind of where it stuck. And then from there, high school theater turned into college theater, and college theater turned into voiceover. I mean, I know that's a very, very abridged version of it, but it's kind of crazy how just the chain of everything and the circumstances and everything just sort of leads into the next. Yeah.
Awesome story. That's an awesome
Yeah.
story. I gotta say.
Yeah.
Um,
To expand upon it a little bit more, when I was in my college theater program, I went to Cal State Fullerton, which is just down the road. And they have a really great theater program. They're like top 10, top 15 theater program in the country. And when I was there, a couple of other actor friends of mine were like, "Hey, you need to audition for this thing that's over at Disney." And there was a show over there. And I auditioned for it and I got it, but I had been doing the voice of Stitch in the
oh,
park over there. They had a booth called Stitch's Picture Phone,
yeah.
and I did that for a number of years, and I also did Turtle Talk with Crush. I've been doing that since it opened in 2005, and that was sort of my 9 to 5 survival gig. Which, if you're an actor, it's wonderful to have sort of a steady paycheck that way. And again, I had been doing all my theater training and applying everything that I was learning in the classroom or on stage into, this particular voice role where you're sort of matching a character. Um, and once I graduated theater, I learned very quickly that unless you're on a national tour or on Broadway, it is so difficult to make a living. I painfully so. Um, but I kind of kicked it around a little bit, and I got serious about doing this voiceover thing. Again, based off of the character voices that I had been doing since 2005. I decided to really, really hunker down and get invested in it and invest the time and the money and all that into it. Once I graduated from college with my BA in theater, my parents really were getting on my case about, hey, do you want to do a master's program? Do you want to go for a master's? And at that point, I was so burnt out from school, from
Oh my
just
gosh.
it was grueling. It was such a grind. And so I ended up, the way I look at it is all the voiceover classes that I took out in LA, that was my master's program,
Oh
if that
gosh.
makes any sense whatsoever. And it was a continuation of my education, and it just opened me up to a bunch of new possibilities. And I fell in love with the craft, and I fell in love with the people. The voiceover community is extremely supportive, and I keep my circles relatively close, but the people that I do keep in my circles, I love very dearly.
And
Yeah.
that's awesome that you have that support over there. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Again, without having those friends and that community, it's very easy to sort of slip through the cracks or get lost or just, feel like you're operating within your own little bubble. Um, but I love my friends. I love them dearly. And again, you workshop ideas, you bounce ideas off of each other, and you kind of compare notes and you exchange thoughts and ideas. And it was at times it was a workshop for us to kind of work on performance and all that stuff, but there are also times where it felt like a group therapy almost. As weird as it was, where again we were all kind of going through a lot of the growing pains that one can go through at that point in your career, where you're trying to kind of still learn and get a demo done and try to get representation, getting an agent, doing a demo, doing a website, and some of us were starting to book our first job. So it's amazing, as cliche as it is to say, a rising tide raises all boats, but that was the truth for our group, you know.
I might
Oh,
say an awesome origin story right there. If I may
thank you.
make a comic book reference there.
Thank you.
And awesome. For my second question for you, sir, um, would you have considered yourself a gamer? And if so, which franchise would you say was your favorite game franchise before, doing Daruk and being a legend now?
Yeah. It would be very easy for me to say Zelda.
Oh, heck yeah.
And
Right on,
while I
brother.
did grow up playing Zelda games, um, I don't know if it was necessarily my favorite. And it's so weird because I have a bunch of fond memories playing the original Zelda when I was 5 on the NES at my cousin's house. I played, a little bit of like Link to the Past, but it was still a little difficult for me at that age. It wasn't until
Sure.
when Ocarina of Time came in, and that was a game that I was able to really, really digest and really appreciate, and also Wind Waker. Those are two of my favorite Zelda games. But I've always been a gamer. I'm very partial to Metroid. That
Heck
was
yeah.
just a series that just captivated me. I mean, every time they re-release a new Metroid game, or just re-release even Super Metroid on a new console or new version, or new digital version of it, I've got to play it all over again. To me, Super Metroid is one of the best crafted games of all time. The music, the gameplay, the story, everything about it, I freaking loved. And I haven't had a chance to play Metroid Prime 4 yet. I'm waiting to pick that up, but I'm very
Was
excited about that.
literally going to
Um,
ask
the
you that.
Yeah, no, I'm really really stoked for it. Yeah. The other series that I'm a big, big, big fan of is Marvel versus Capcom. I
Oh,
played those games.
yeah, man.
And I wouldn't label myself like a fighting game guy, not really, but I played the hell out of those games in the arcade and then when they came over to console. So again, that entire series, Marvel versus Capcom, you know, dating back to like X-Men Children of the Atom, I loved those freaking games, and my friends and I pumped so many quarters into that. And I did a couple of tournaments, and I didn't make it terribly far, but I made it out of the first round in a couple of cases and stuff like that. And I loved it. I still have a fond reverence for the game, and all that. Played a lot of World of Warcraft, a lot of Blizzard games. So, Diablo, played a lot of that. I mean, my God, the number of hours that I probably killed, it's unreal. Absolutely. Dota was a big game. Oh my God, throughout my 20s, my wife almost divorced me because of Dota. My marriage almost ended before it began because of that game. But again, it's helpful, but it's also hurtful when you have friends that are playing the same game because you guys get so involved. And again, depending on the game, you could do like a raid night, if you're playing World of Warcraft, or you do like a designated night where everybody, logs on and plays as a team and all that stuff. And that's dangerous. It's super, super dangerous. Unfortunately, my gaming has gone down considerably, and that's really unfortunate because it's just where I'm at in life. Um, I have kids. I have two kids. I'm married. I know better. My wife will let me have it if I try to get, so I game, but I game a little bit more casually, I guess, nowadays. I do mobile gaming, so that's a little bit easier where you just kind of pick up and go. The game that I played a little bit more recently, and I say recently as in like the past 6 years, was Friday the 13th. um Kind of those like team survival games. It hit me at a time kind of during COVID, and this is when my daughter was born and we had my son. And being able to play a game that's only 20 minutes long, and you can kind of get in and get out, and just it was fun. Don't get me wrong, the game was glitchy as all hell. I mean, I don't know if you ever played it, but it was
Chance.
glitchy.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I mean, you played it for the multiplayer experience, and unfortunately, the game's no longer around. I think they stopped supporting it and all that stuff. And in fact, the team that made that game uh recently worked on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, which has a lot of the same mechanics. I haven't had a chance to play that one yet, but again, it's sort of that survival horror, kind of a genre, and I'm fascinated by it, and it's so much fun. Yeah. So
For my next question for you, and that's actually very fascinating. I'm gonna have to go take a look back at that Friday the 13th game because I did see it advertised a couple of years back, I recall. But question though, what did you enjoy most about working on Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and now obviously Age of Imprisonment, I guess.
it's been it's been a journey, and it's so funny that when we started working on Breath of the Wild, I was so brand new in my career.
Oh,
Breath of the Wild was like one of the first video games I ever worked on. And I was so brand new in my career, and quite frankly, I was a little terrified.
wow.
And that wasn't from anything that Nintendo or the director or any of the producers or writers were doing. It was the stress and the pressure that I felt was 100% self-inflicted. And again, to their credit, they set us up for success as much as possible. They gave us all the time in the world. And when you're working on video games, especially sometimes when they're like a big AAA kind of a title, time is money. Budgets, we got to crank it out. Let's go, 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 go. I mean, it's like, let's crank this out. And one of the things that I loved about working on that first game of Breath of the Wild is that they gave us so much time for us to sort of refine and explore our character. So, vocally and sort of personality wise, what I started recording Daruk day one is a little bit different than where we ended up, like, the last day of recording, where again, you just feel a lot more comfortable in your skin, and you feel more comfortable in your voice and your technique and all of that stuff. And inversely, it just sort of progressed. And it when we went into Tears of the Kingdom, I felt so much more comfortable with who I was and the characters and their placement and all, and it was like riding a bike. It really, really was. Um, and being able to revisit these characters is truly a gift because you never know if that's it. You never know if you're done, you know? And if they make 100 of these games, I will come back each and every time if they'll have me.
You
Um,
do. I do.
you but you get emotionally invested into to playing these characters, and you want to do right by them, and you want to do right by the fans because you know that whenever there's a new Zelda game coming out, there are big expectations for it, huge expectations. Um, and when they announced Tears of the Kingdom, it's not as if they immediately, gave me a phone call and say, "Hey, Joe, we want you to come in." It wasn't like that. There was a very, very good amount of time from the moment that they announced that game and dropped the teaser trailer and all of that stuff until they gave me that call. And I would say painfully long, because again, you don't know if they're bringing back your character. You know they're making another game, but again, the storyline could very well shift, in a million different directions, and so you just don't know. And so, you start to get a little bit worried, or you get like FOMO, or it eats at you a little bit, and it's like, gosh, what am I going to do? And then that day comes when you finally do get that phone call, and it's, hey, we want you back. And it's such a wonderful feeling. It's
Man.
the best feeling in the world, being able to kind of reprise these characters. Um, but like I said, at the end of every, recording, when you're done recording, you almost you have to say goodbye to the characters, which is a very difficult thing, because you spend so much time getting invested in playing them and voicing them, and giving them this life and this personality, that sometimes you're not quite ready to say goodbye, or sometimes saying goodbye is a little difficult, or bittersweet even. So you go through a range of emotions, um, and truthfully, when we worked on the first Hyrule Warriors, at that point in time, when at the end of the game, when Daruk and Yunobo are saying goodbye to each other, at that point in time, I thought that was it. I thought we're done. And again, you kind of think that every time, because you never know. And then, of course, they have DLC, or they have something else that comes up. But again, at that juncture, you just think, this is it. I'm saying goodbye to these characters. And it's one of those things that you just have to deal with and move on. And, you know, yeah, it's just part of life, like anything else.
That's beautiful, I have to say. I mean, because I never would have thought about it that way personally, because obviously I'm not a voice actor such as yourself. And I never would have thought about it that way, that it would be so emotional for you in such a situation, you know.
Not every character do you get attached like this, but I would say Daruk and Yunobo, and I guess now Agriston, you do get it. You do get invested. And if you want to do it right, you have to find out, you have to discover their personalities and what makes them tick, and what makes them different from each other. And the best performances, I believe, are the ones that you get invested like. And again, not every performance, not every role, not every job is going to be like that. But again, I think we all know these were special games. These were special
Oh,
stories that we were telling. So again, you get invested, of course.
for
Yeah.
sure. And well, I guess I have to ask my last question for you.
Okay.
And this is going to be the funny question.
Okay.
So, fanboy question. Let's do it. So, Daruk versus the Thing from Fantastic Four. Who wins?
I mean, I would have to give the advantage to Daruk.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got that rock biter that he's able to slam down, and he eats rocks. I mean, I think everybody talks about rock paper scissors, but this is like rock versus rock, or rock versus bigger rock. I mean, that's kind of what this is. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Fantastic Four. I love the
Mhm.
Thing, but I think in this instance, Daruk wins. I really do.
Yep. Same here. You know what? Maybe I'm
Yeah,
biased. Wearing my little Triforce hat.
of course, I love it.
Oh, thanks. And I figured, you would go that route. I would have thought it was odd if it was like, wait, no, not the Thing. But I'm just kidding. But
I'm a big comic books fan myself, so I I
oh,
I love it. I love me some comic books.
awesome. Well, Joe, I think I've taken enough of your time, sir, and I don't know if it's too much for me to ask, but can you give us, like, and the fans, of course, a Darut style, like, farewell?
Friends, I'll see you next time.
Absolutely love it. Well, sir, it's been a total pleasure. Thank you very much for the honor of interviewing you. And I hope to see you sometime at a convention. Unfortunately, I almost made it to the one that you guys did with all the voice actors. I've met Patricia Somerset and Liz Maxwell before, and
Which
Sean
one are you
Shiplock.
referring? Which one are you referring to?
The one that was in Sacramento, I think, a few years back.
Oh, Sac Anime.
Yep,
That was a big one. Yeah.
that's the one.
Um, those are always so much fun to do. Um, Again, Patricia, she bounces back and forth, but she's in Ontario, or Toronto, I think, or sometimes she'll back in, she has a place in Michigan, but we all don't live relatively close. Like Elizabeth, I think is based out of Texas,
Yeah,
but sometimes she'll make her way out to LA for, voiceover jobs. And I will see Sean every once in a while. But we're all kind of scattered. We're all kind of living our own lives. And so as special as it is for the fans to be able to get together and see all of us, do panels and autograph signings, it's also very special for us as well, just because, it's like I don't get a chance to see these people, and you really, really want to, So as special as it is for the fans, it's very much so for us as a cast.
awesome. Awesome. Well, Joe, it has been a big pleasure for me again, and I cannot say enough thank yous. It was really a pleasure talking to you for this time, and I really do hope I get to meet you in person someday.
Thank you. Happy to do it anytime.
Awesome. Well, happy holidays to you, sir, and you have a good one.
Happy holidays. Take care.
You as well. Bye.